afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alexis, Garcia, and Shreve here to break down the market action in today's session for Thursday, October 17th. Ken, what you got for us today?
Well, Alexis, maybe a little bit of a disappointing performance for the stock market after a really good earnings report from Taiwan Semiconductor. So I want to take a look at TSMC. The ticker there is TSM. Insurance stocks did well. So let's take a look at a Warren Buffett favorite, Chubb, CB. And finally, in the security software group, let's talk about Palo Alto Networks, PANW.
All right, well, let's talk all about that. But first, let's check in with the major index because, as you said, Ken, S&P and Nasdaq both fading here towards the end of the day. The S&P finishing down fractionally, the Nasdaq finishing positive, but also off highs. The Dow was the big winner of the day, finishing up about 0.4%, and the Russell 2000 up, down about 0.3%. So Ken, let's take a closer look at the NASDAQ chart here. And what are your thoughts?
Well, we were up 0.9% at the high. Didn't quite get over Tuesday's high. You can see there. So the Nasdaq has not moved into all-time high ground. A little bit disappointing too, because we had a really good blowout earnings report from Taiwan Semiconductor. Nasdaq responded positively early. We also had pretty strong economic data today as well. Retail sales were better than expected. We had a nice reading from the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. Jobless claims were weaker than expected. That's a good thing. But market just had a hard time, responding to this. So really kind of looked like a classic stalling session for the Nasdaq here because it paired that 0.9% intraday gain basically to break even. What the day's action tells us is that there were sellers in the market today knocking the Nasdaq off its highs in higher volume. So probably a little bit of a disappointing session here, but we are still in a confirmed uptrend, still on a power trend here. So not going to get too uptight about a not so great day, but wishing we got to close near highs on the Nasdaq.
And let's take a look at the S&P because a little bit of the same story there. And I'm taking a look at the intraday chart here. Hit that intraday high and then just really faded, Ken. So what are your thoughts here of where we're at?
Yeah, those intraday charts really give you a good perspective, and you can just see by looking at the intraday chart for the S&P 500 here had that good solid open, and then it just had a hard time rallying, and you can see it's closed. There were just sellers, knocking the index lower here. So S&P 500 did touch an all-time high on an intraday basis, so that's a good sign, but it did give back gains just like the Nasdaq here.
And what are your thoughts about the Dow? Because that was the big winner of the day. And what are your thoughts here?
Well, Travelers was the big story in the Dow. The ticker there is TRV. Really fueled a nice rally in insurance stocks. Let's see who else did well in the Dow today. Travelers was up 9%. Chevron, American Express, good day for financials. American Express also outperformed. We're going to hear from earnings from Amex tomorrow morning. That stock's been on a tear. So yeah, the Dow Jones hit an all-time high today, along with the S&P 500. So not such a bad day, but that 9% gain for Travelers, was a big one for sure.
And then let's briefly take a look at small caps, Ken, because again, those were down on the day. But trying to hold some of these recent gains here.
Yeah, I mean, up 4 days in a row, and look at what it did today. It really didn't budge at all. So to me, the small caps, even though they they didn't participate and actually lagged, even though all of the indexes faded pretty badly off highs. Really nice tight trading for small caps here. It's still in a position for a breakout try here, sitting just below its all-time high here. So I thought overall a pretty constructive day for small caps after 4 straight gains. Seems like today small caps digested gains pretty well.
Well, you mentioned lagging, and speaking of lagging, utilities really lagging today. This group has really just been powering higher here, Ken. But this one finishing down about 0.9% today at the lower end of that range. So, what are your thoughts here?
Well, again, it was something another. Ready to digest some gains. It was up for several days in a row, still on a strong uptrend here. Out of the 11 S&P 500 sectors, this was the worst performer today, but reversed off highs, closed near lows, but it was probably ready to consolidate a little bit, like the Russell after several up days in a row here. So yeah, utilities lagged today. They were outperformers yesterday. And they still, seem to be a nice pocket of strength in the market today, even today's selling notwithstanding.
All right, well, let's take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield because, as you mentioned, we got some positive economic news today, but this one jumping up about 2% today. So, what's going on here?
Well, that's a good question because the yields did spike. Money, flowed out of bonds. Didn't flow into stocks. It flowed out of bonds, and that lifted the 10-year Treasury yield. Pretty big move today. But again, jobless claims better than expected. Retail sales better than expected, and also the Philly Fed manufacturing index better than expected. Now, you get a jump in rates like this, maybe the market's going to pivot and start wondering if the Fed is going to be able to, cut rates again if the economy continues to strengthen. Because if they continue cutting rates when the economy is strengthening, that could. That wouldn't do anything to help inflation. Could reignite inflation. So, Fed's in a tough spot here. We'll have to see what economic data looks like, for the rest of this week and in coming weeks. But that big rise in the 10-year Treasury yield, you can see it's coming right up to that 200-day moving average, just below, that 4.2% area. So we'll see where the 10-year yield goes. But believe me, we all like to see strong economic data. But this whole rate cutting campaign could be thrown into disarray here if we continue to get really strong economic data and inflation doesn't go away.
Right. And investors will definitely be keeping an eye on that. But let's go to our individual stocks. You mentioned Taiwan Semi earnings today, big winner in the market, up about 9.7%. And Ken, it seems like that AI chip demand isn't really drying up. Seems like it's really powerful growth here. So, talk a little bit about Taiwan Semi.
Yeah, I think it bodes well for a lot of these other AI and data center stocks. Taiwan Semiconductor is the world's largest contract chip manufacturer. They make chips for Nvidia, AMD, Apple, Broadcom, you name it. Just a really high profile list of customers, and the numbers were really good. If you just look down at the bottom of this chart, you can see that recent earnings and sales have been accelerating. In other words, the rate of growth has been picking up, and just in the latest quarter here, you see revenue up 41%, accelerating growth from 34% 3 months ago, and that accelerated from 11% 3 months before that. So when you have earnings and revenue accelerating, you expect to see good price performance in a stock, and you do have that with Taiwan Semiconductor. Can't do much with the stock up here. It did cross that 189.33 entry, and didn't make a whole lot of progress from there, but it did gap up powerfully today on these numbers. But still a name to watch for possibly an alternate entry. And while we're, since Nvidia is a big customer here, why don't we just take a look at Nvidia as well, NVDA, because that price action today was a little disappointing. It did touch an all-time high, but it also showed pretty good stalling action as well, gave back that gain. So there were some sellers in the market today. Doesn't mean this uptrend is ready to roll over here, but you want to pay attention to to signs of selling when you see it. We saw it in the broad market today, saw it a little bit in TSM. It closed off highs, and definitely saw it in Nvidia today. Just couldn't hold that big intraday gain.
All right, Ken. Well, let's move on to our next stock, and that's Chubb, ticker CB. And as you mentioned, this is a Warren Buffett pick. This one up 3% today and jumping above that buy point of 294.18.
Yeah, the property casualty insurers. I mentioned that really nice earnings report from Travelers in the same group as Chubb, and Travelers was a huge gainer in the Dow today. So lifted a lot of insurance stocks. This was a classic breakout. I'm not sure that Warren Buffett is at his desk monitoring technical breakouts, but this is a big holding of his, and beautiful breakout here over that 294. 18 pivot, still in the 5% buy zone. So it, not too stretched here. So maybe people looking for some insurance exposure. Got earnings coming up in 12 calendar days, but boy, we've seen so many technical breakouts in recent weeks, and they still continue to happen. So that makes the bulls, feel comfortable about this uptrend. Chubb was the latest breakout today, so still in a buy zone here.
And as you mentioned, that volume really accelerating from the previous day, and that relative strength line trending in the right direction. And this one was our stock of the day today. And as you mentioned, Ken, that insurance group, just to take a look really quickly at the iShares Insurance ETF, this one has been just such a solid performer over the last few months.
Yeah, and we actually have KIE, another insurance ETF on in the leaderboard model portfolio that was added August 14th when it first started coming out. So yeah, insurers continue to be a nice pocket of strength. I mean, the thing about this market right now is that there are a lot of pocket of strengths in the market here. One point we were talking about Magnificent Seven leadership. Now we've got home builders leading. We've got insurance stocks. Utilities have been doing well. Some technology stocks have come back to life. So the breadth, at least today in the market, wasn't great. We did have decliners slightly outnumbering advancers for a good portion of the session, even when indexes were trading higher. So breadth wasn't great today, but we've definitely seen a big widening out of leadership, which bodes well for the uptrend.
Always good to see more stocks participating in that. And let's finish here with Palo Alto Networks. This one up on the day about 0.8%, and flirting with this official buy point of 380.84. But this one's been in a very long consolidation. So what are you looking at here, Ken, as this gets closer to an official buy point?
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at one of the leaders in the software security group, there was a downgrade in the group today, but Palo Alto held up pretty well. This is a very very large company, definitely one of the Cadillacs in the group. I like the fact that it's forming a big long base here. If you go to the weekly chart, just get a longer term perspective here. You've got the market in a nice uptrend here. You look at the volume bars down at the bottom here. You see a stock that's showing some signs of accumulation as this base has formed. Relative strength line is a little bit off highs, but this is one that could still move if this market stays on an uptrend. So good one for the watch list. Not growing as fast as it once did, but again, a market cap now of 122.5 billion. So you get so big sometimes you're just not going to be able to maintain that 25-30% growth. But good high quality mega cap in a base here on breakout watch.
All right, Ken. Well, thanks so much for your insights today. And we'll be back with more market analysis tomorrow morning, starting with IBD Live. You can head on over to investors.com/IBD Live for all of the details there. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow for the extended version of Stock Market Today with Alyssa Coram and Mike Webster. Thanks so much for watching.